What's up everybody? This is Chris here from East Coast PC and welcome back to the channel. It has been so long since we did a video, about a month, so we definitely fell short of a bare minimum of one video per week. That went out the window a long time ago, but all jokes aside, we have a lot of excellent new content coming up. We are finally about to break ground on our excellent gaming, edited, and just do everything computer here at East Coast PC. We're going to be building that into Lee & Lee 011 Dynamic XL. It's going to be a fully custom water cooled build. There's just so much exciting new content we got going on with that. We finally got our RTX 3090 in that's going in that build, and we just have so much exciting new content coming to the channel. And thank each and every one of y'all for y'all support. Even though we hadn't put out a video in a month, we've been getting subscribers, comments, likes, all that good stuff. And thank each and every one of you for doing that, because none of this would be possible without y'all. But all of that's going to be going on in the next few weeks. That's not why we're here today. We're here today because I wanted to make a video. It's something that I'm very excited about, and I think it's just a huge deal. So we're going to be talking about AMD's 3D V-Cache and the whole evolution of the Ryzen platform from the time Ryzen launched in 2017 to now being the absolute best CPU like for the 5950X. It's basically the best CPU on any mainstream platform, period, in every use case, and how they have just went from being the total underdog with the bulldozer and the FX platform to being the butt of all kinds of jokes to totally dominating the DIY market. So before we get started, guys, if there's anybody who isn't subscribed to the channel, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, comment, do all that good YouTube stuff. It helps us out so much. We appreciate each and every one of y'all's support, and you just don't know how grateful we are for each and every one of y'all and all y'all do to support the channel. So without further to talk about here, let's get started. All right, guys, so this new AMD 3D V-Cache, I am so excited about it. And basically what it is, by the way, this news is a month old. Some of you probably already heard about it, whatever, but we've had so much going on. And even though there's a lot of other YouTube channels that's talked about it, I wanted to talk about it to my audience. It's something that I'm very excited about it. So that's why I decided to make this video, even though it's not something that just news that just dropped yesterday. So this AMD 3D V-Cache, basically what it is it's going to give AMD the option to put 192 megabytes of L3 cache on one CPU, on one two chiplet CPU. So the new Ryzen 5000 family come with 8 cores per CCX. You know, that's up from 4 cores per CCX on the old design. So for example, a 5950X has two 8-core CCXs, right? So basically this new 3D V-Cache is going to let AMD stack 64 megs of L3 cache directly on top of the CCXs. So we have our traditional 64 megs of L3 cache, and then you're going to have another two 64 megs on this one and 64 megs of L3 cache stacked, vertically stacked, or 3D vertically stacked directly on top of the CCXs, or better, the CCDs. Basically they're not the same thing, but a lot of people get it confused now because there's, like I said, 8 cores per CCX and there's only 1 CCX per CCD now. So anyway, we're going to end up with 192 megs of L3 cache. Well, why is that a big deal? It's a big deal because ever since Ryzen launched, starting with the very first Ryzen family, the Ryzen 1800X, the 1700, 1700X, all that good stuff. When it first launched, they made a big splash. I think they had like 52% IPC improvement over the FX platform, which was big and that was awesome. But you got to think that there had been like 5 years in between the last release, or like the release of the FX 8350 and the Ryzen platform. So 52% was definitely needed, and they were already behind Intel at the time that the mobile FX processors launched anyway. So when Ryzen launched, like I said, it made a big splash, as all of you know, but it was lagging behind in gaming performance very bad. And it's definitely not nothing I bought on the platform. Nevertheless, it was very exciting to see AMD get competitive again. And they went on to release the 2nd gen Ryzen, which was Zen Plus, and the Ryzen 2000 family. And I think there was about 5 to 7% improvements, maybe a little more in gaming. I don't have the numbers right here in front of me, but I want to say it was about 7% performance improvement in games. Now, as the platform matured, memory speed got faster. That was one of the biggest things holding Ryzen back, because being a chiplet architecture, when one core has information that it needs to get through the other core, it has to go through the infinity cache. Well, the infinity cache runs at the same speed as your RAM. So if you have slow RAM, you have slow infinity cache. Therefore, if I need to talk to my neighbor over there and say, hey, I need you to execute this while I'm executing this, or if I need to use some of the cache that's on the other chiplet, I have to go through that infinity fabric. And having slow infinity fabric meant you're going to have way less performance than something with a ring bus like Intel was using, where you had a unified cache around your cores. And that, that was the Ryzen's biggest drawback. However, it was still good enough for a lot of people in gaming, and to have 8 cores and 16 threads, totally dwarfing what Intel had as far as multi-threaded performance, especially when the first gen Ryzen came out and I had my 7700K. So, like we said, all that positive stuff in productivity and all that, but gaming performance was still too far behind, and I definitely wasn't putting it in my customers' builds when they were wanting excellent gaming PC builds. So then we get the Ryzen 3000 family. We get even better, but gaming performance is still lagging behind. And when the Ryzen 3000 family was AMD's offering, what I was doing with my customers is I was using that in gaming builds, but and the reason why I was doing that is because Intel didn't have hyper-threading at the time. Even though Intel processors was better, they didn't have hyper-threading. So I knew it was going to be a problem in the future. It has already started to be a problem in games like Red Dead Redemption 2, Cyberpunk 2077. There's many games that have stuttering problems and just have a lot less performance on a lot of those Intel 9th gen CPUs, except for the 9900K, such as the 9700K, the 9600K. So what I was doing with my customers, if you had the money and you wanted the absolute best gaming build you could build, like when I built this one here behind me, it has a 9900K in it, 8 core, 16 threads. Awesome processor, but it was very expensive. And if they wanted anything else lower down in the stack, I was using Ryzen processors and explaining to them that yes, the performance might be a little lower right now, but I thought it would pay off in the future, and it has in a lot of scenarios, because those CPUs that don't have hyper-threading are struggling in a lot of games now. So then after we got past that generation, we're at the current generation, the Ryzen 5000, and they literally took the gaming crown. There is still some scenarios when Intel wins. There's a lot of scenarios when AMD wins. They trade blows in a lot of games, and the only downfall at all, which I'm finally switching, I'm going all AMD for my CPU. Of course, I'm still going to be using an NVIDIA graphics card, but I think the Ryzen 5000 family is phenomenal for gaming. I think it's the best in the business for gaming, just about on every level. The only thing that the only little downfall that it could possibly has is sometimes the 1% lows, your 1% low frame rates in games are lower than Intel, and the reason why they're lower is because they're still using a chiplet architecture. Even though we got 8 cores per CCD, and we got each 8 core chiplet has its own unified cache, it's still they still communicate with an IO die and through the infinity fabric. But with all of the fast L3 cache and so much L3 cache and so many IPC improvements, that is the only, and I mean the only downfall in gaming, is sometimes in some latency based titles the 1% lows are a little bit better on Intel. However, it's not enough to matter to me, and I still recommend the 5950X. If you want the absolute best gaming and content creation CPU on the market, I recommend the 5950X any day over anything Intel's got to offer. And if there is a little bit of a difference in the 1% lows, it's not enough to matter to me or to my customers, as I tell them. However, this new AMD 3D V-Cache. I believe it will totally end all of that. I believe that Ryzen will basically dominate the gaming market, like as far as charts go, performance. This AMD 3D V-Cache has the potential to take away any tiny last little grain of advantage Intel had into gaming performance on them 1% lows. I think it will, and however, I'm still very excited about Intel Alder Lake. I encourage each and every one of you to watch the video we did about the specifications leaking for the Intel 12th Gen Alder Lake a while back. I am still very excited about that, and I'm excited about that because that's the architecture that I believe that's going to stop the bleeding for Intel in the DIY market. And it's definitely not, they're definitely not going to, you know, I don't think they're going to take the crown anymore. At best, I think they will, you know, break even with AMD's new 3D V-Cache Ryzen 5000 processors that's launching in the beginning of the year. But however, I do think it'll stop a lot of the bleeding, and it'll get Intel back on the right track. And us as consumers need both of them companies to be competitive, because that's what gets us good prices. That's what gets us innovation, good products, and good pricing. So with that being said, I am still excited about that, but I do believe that this AMD 3D V-Cache has the potential to just make the Ryzen 5000s the absolute best processors that we have ever seen. I'm very excited about it. I'm also very excited about what they can do with Epic and Threadripper and all that, because from what I hear, it should be really, really good for code compiling and stuff like that. A lot of CPU intensive workloads that you would be using, you know, for all kinds of creative purposes, data centers, and just so much stuff that hammers the CPU. But that's not generally what we focus on. We focus on gaming, content creation, and just overall kick-ass performance builds here at East Coast PC. So they are only going to be, right now that we know of, it's just going to be a single layer stacked on each CCD. So one last thing I want to say, the way they're doing this, and so it's not going to be a problem as far as the height goes, they have shaved down the die of the regular 8-core CCDs. They've shaved them down enough where they can directly stack this 3D V-Cache directly on top of the CCDs without adding any extra height. Because say that, we're just shooting out numbers here, say they were 5 millimeters tall, which they're not, but just say they were, then they've shaved off 5 millimeters off of the CCD, and therefore when they apply it, it's the same exact height. It causes no issues whatsoever. And another thing, they are putting it up there with a new technology. It's not micro bumps. We'll talk more about that later in the video as far as the technology they're using to apply it to the actual CCDs. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to make this video, and I think it's a kick-ass thing that they're doing with this 3D V-Cache. I'm very excited about it. I think we should all be very excited about it in the industry. And yeah, guys, so we're about out of time today. Like I said, we got a lot of excellent content coming up. I'm so excited about all the content coming up. I plan to never have a 1-month drought on this channel ever again. So thank each and every one of y'all for watching this video. If there's anybody who is not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, drop a like, comment, do all that good YouTube stuff. And thank each and every one of y'all for watching. We will see y'all soon.